Welcome to Wine and Design. My name is Kimberly and I'm your instructor for today. So starting off, first things first, with what we have in front of us, we have our 11 by 14 size canvas. We are going to be having it long ways. The bottom of my canvas is down here. The top is all the way over here. So the distance that you see the camera is the distance of, or the width of the whole canvas. Okay, so just in case you're confused, it ends at the bottom and it starts at the top. So you are seeing the full picture of the canvas on your picture. Again, this is going to be recorded live. Don't worry about it. Your screen won't be recorded, just mine. So don't worry about that. Again, if you hear that the music is off, that means that I am recording. So please refrain from asking questions unless you ask them through the chat. If you hear music, feel free to ask your questions out loud. Okay, so we have our 11 by 14 size canvas right here. Next, we have our fan. Okay, so maybe a fan or a hair dryer, anything that you might have to help the layers dry a little faster so that we can continue with our painting. All right, next we have our brushes on our right. We have a large background brush, a square medium brush, a round tip brush that comes to a point, and a detail brush that is very tiny, again, just for details, lettering, lines, stuff like that. This is going to be kind of an abstract piece. It's more expressionist. It's going to be kind of just loose. It's not going to be so tight with the lines, and it doesn't have to look super perfect. Okay, so just so you guys have that in your mind to begin with, don't be so hard on yourselves. Also, every painting has what we call an ugly phase in the beginning. So eventually your painting will get better, even if in the beginning you're maybe struggling a little bit. So a lot of the struggling usually comes from the amount of water that you add in your brush. So make sure that you guys have your cup of water and a towel to dry your brushes. So this water, your brush is kind of like a sponge. So it soaks up a lot of water. And we are going to want to add some of that water to our paint because our paint is not ready to use. It's still very, very sticky. So we're going to add some paint, water it down so that we can control our paint. If you find that it's a little too rough or too sticky, then you need to add a little bit more water. If you feel that your paint is a little too runny and see-through, why is this happening? Then add a little bit more paint. So try to find a balance between thick and thin paint by going back and either adding more water or adding more paint to even it out. Okay, so we are going to be starting off first with our background. And our background is going to be a blue with a little bit of a green on the right-hand side. And then we're going to be painting our ground, okay? So where everything's going to be laying on top. So we're going to start off first. Again, we pick up a little bit of water on our brush. Pick it up a little bit. I usually tend to just tap it. I don't really clean it off. I just kind of tap it so that my towel sucks up any excess water. And we are going to start off first with a little bit of our white. And we're actually going to pick up a little bit of blue as well. So we want to pick up both colors. And the reason for that is because we want both colors to shine through in our background. Okay, so our background is going to be mostly X's. And we are going to be creating a line about maybe 2/3 of the way down. Okay, and we're going to be painting from this section towards the top with that green and that white kind of blending in a little bit. We do want it on the darker side of things. We don't want it to be too light. So again, come back, pick up a little bit of that blue. Make sure that your water is combined into it so that when you press on your canvas, it doesn't just smush out of your brush. You have to make sure that you let go of all that blue color or that water into your blue color to soften it up. Okay, and we're just going to continue adding some of this blue over here. We're going to be getting some blue and we're going to be picking up some white. And we're just going to start to paint this section mostly towards the left up until maybe right here. Then right here, we're going to start to add a little bit more green. Okay, so blue, let's go a little bit upwards. You guys can follow along with me. And then we're going to continue with the green on the right-hand side. As we start working our way towards our right, you are going to see a little bit of green mixed in there. Every time that I'm working my way up, you're also going to notice that I always come back down and then I continue to go up and then I go a little bit back down. So that allows for an even transition when we're painting. If we go up and then we come down, we're including the bottom to the top, so it looks like it's all part of the same picture. All right, so the color that we're going to be using here first is going to be a little bit of this green mixed into our blue. We're going to start off first with green mixed with blue, just to get a little bit of a teal color to get the paint started. Okay, and we're going to start off with a little bit of that green, and we're going to start to bring it into our blue a little bit. Next, after that green, we're going to come back and grab just a plain green, maybe just a little bit of blue in it. And we're going to start to paint the sides here. A little bit more of that green, make it stand out a little bit more. We're also going to add just a tad bit of yellow on our brush. We're not going to mix it on our palette, and we're just going to add the yellow directly to the green on the corner over here, just to make it a little bit lighter towards the corner. If you also want to grab just a little bit of white with that, you can do it. If not, you can use your yellow, and you can make your highlights with your yellow on that side if you choose to. So you could choose either yellow or white to make that highlight color. Okay, and we're adding some of that green into our blue. Once we have done that, we're going to come back with our blue, and we're going to slightly, like I mentioned before, we go back and forth. So now we're going to go with our blue and go over some of this green to make it look like it's part of the blue that we see going on there. So I'm coming in with my blue. I'm adding some blue towards the top. Going to add a little bit of white to that. Go for the same look that we were going for before, trying to blend it to the background a little so you can't tell. Okay, and we just kind of want to start to fade it, and we fade it by adding a little bit more blue and white and working it into that green section a little bit. Not all the way. You don't want to cover all of the green. Okay, see in here, it's already starting to kind of blend in with that. Come back again with a little bit more white so you can get the color that you have below. You added a little bit of that color into the green. Okay, I'm coming in with a little bit more of that blue again. Okay, and now it's become part of our picture. Brown brush. And this time to our blue, we're going to be picking up just a little bit of black. And we're going to add some of that black into our blue to make it just a little bit more navy. Okay, so again, we're picking up a little bit of black, mixing it with our blue there. We're making a darker navy blue. Okay, we want it to be a little richer, a little darker. Okay, nice. And that's the blue that we have right there. It's a dark blue. And we're going to come in with this dark blue. And we're going to go towards the bottom. We're going to make that line, and we're going to begin to paint with it. You see how it's turning that nice color? It looks a little more darker than what it is when you look at it with the lighting for some reason. So it's actually a little bit lighter than probably what you see on the cam. Okay, so again, we're picking up this blue and we're just dragging it across, and we're going to start to paint the base of our painting now. Okay, and we're going to continue this all the way down. And then once it's done, I'm going to give you guys some time so we can dry it. So I'll give you guys about 3-4 minutes to dry it. Then I'll be asking you guys if you guys need a little bit more time, and that way we can move on together. You can add a little bit of the straight blue in there as well if you want to have a variety of colors. So I'm adding this navy blue. I added just a little bit of the plain blue in there, just to add a little bit more of a color variation. There you go, and I played that in there. So now you can see both colors. Okay. You can also come in and just mix in some green in there, just a little bit, just to get also another variation in colors. Just so it looks like it matches the top section there, I am going to come in with just a little bit of green. And I'm just scratching that on lightly. You're not really going to be able to tell much that it's there. All right, so when we are done with this, we are going to be drying it. So I'm going to put you guys on mute real quick just so I can use my blow dryer, and we can continue. So what we did again is we grabbed a little bit of water. We made a line towards the top like an eye, and then we brought our lines down to make a stem. We created an arch, another arch, and one more, so a total of 3 arches. Then we filled up the top arch, the top eye section. We filled in this other section here towards the bottom. This is what we're going to be painting red, so we're adding our base coat right now before we apply our red, just to make sure that it can stand out against our dark blue in the back. Then we come out, add a little bit of a shape towards the side, create that arch, a little shape on the side. We start to expand and open. And we start to bring our bottle down. You want to leave about 3 fingers worth of space in the bottom, just so that we have enough space to put the rest of our stuff, like our mushrooms, a little bit of our spoon standing out, and so on. Okay, so next we're going to begin to draw the other vegetables. We are going to be using our detail brush now, and we are going to begin to outline our vegetables. Okay, we're going to start first by doing our circle. We're going to have a lemon slice here, and we're going to go a little bit over towards our light blue section in the back. So we're coming in behind this Tabasco. We're going to do a big wheel. Okay. For this one, you can actually begin to paint that in if you'd like. We can grab our yellow and our white with that same detail brush, and we can start to fill in the wheel around. We can start working in that lemon right now. Again, using my detail brush, I'm picking up a little bit of my white and my yellow, and I'm working on the lemon around. So white and yellow, making sure that I can keep this nice and straight. Okay, and as we go in towards the inside, we're going to grab a little bit more of that yellow and white, just to brighten it up a little bit. And we're going to start to create the little slices with that yellow and white. We're going around, we're making an X. Then we're cutting that X in half. Again, you can go in there with just your yellow. I add a little bit of white just to make sure that it's nice and bright. And we're going to go cut that line right in the middle right there. Okay, so the way that we're going to make these lemon slices stand out a little bit is I'm going to add a little bit of red to my yellow too, just a little bit of a darken it. I didn't add a lot of red, I just added a little bit. I don't want it to look super orange. Okay, so I added a little bit of red to my yellow just so that my yellow got a little bit darker. See that? How it didn't get much darker, it just got a little darker. And with that darkish yellow, we're just gonna go around the top of this wheel just to give it more of a shadow. And we're also gonna use a little bit of that yellow in the center of these lines. Okay, again, yellow and white. Go outside of that. Okay, if you want to go in there and give it another little touch, just to make sure it's nice and thick. There we go. And inside of those gaps, you're going to be filling in the triangles with white. Okay, so we're adding some white to these triangles in the center. If you don't like them white, you can go in and just add a little bit more yellow to the center too, just to add a variety in colors. I'm painting them white first. Okay, same thing here. Adding a little bit of that white to make each of these little triangles stand out. A little bit more on the outside of this rind. Okay, and then I'm going to pick up some yellow and just create some lines inside to make it look as if my yellow is blending in with my white. See that? So I added some white and then I came in with some of that yellow. So hopefully by now you guys have all been able to catch up with that lemon. Next, we're going to be using our greens. Okay, but we're going to be outlining first with our white. Okay, so we're coming in with our brush, picking up that white, and we're going to begin to do an outline again. So we have our celery coming out of the side of this lemon. Ooh, that is too much water. Let me add a little bit more paint. Cool, there we go, nice and soft. I'm coming in, and from the side of my lemon, I'm making a line coming down, and I'm gonna curve it. You see that? Curving it down. Come back, add another line, and I'm also curving that down, and that's gonna be back here. It's gonna connect towards the back, and that's our celery. So you wanna make sure that you keep this line as straight as possible. So put your brush At the end of that line, make sure you keep it nice and straight. There's one. I'm going to go a little bit up. That's the other. Then I'm going to go a little bit higher, and then that's the other. And that's for some quick measuring. I believe actually this one might be a little bit too tall. So I'm going to make this salary in the back just a little bit bigger. Okay, so in the picture, the salary is just kind of behind the lemon. But since I did make this line a little bit higher, I could either choose to erase this line or make my salary higher. So I chose to just make my salary higher. It's not a big deal. Okay, there we go. And we're gonna bring these lines that we drew, we're gonna bring them towards the back. All the way down. So the colors we're gonna be using to paint in our salary, we're gonna be using our round tip brush, and we're gonna be using our white, our green, and a little bit of our yellow. So let's pick up our green, and we're gonna put it on the side of our yellow to make a lime green color. Okay, so we have this green vegetable looking color right here. And then we're gonna mix a little bit of white into that green. And we're gonna have more of like a celery green color. See, so this is a highlight of that celery green. If you wanna go in and add a little bit of yellow to that for more vibrance, there you go. So we have our two colors for our celery. It's gonna be a green with yellow and white, and we're gonna be using our white as well. So let's start off first with our darker green. I'm picking up my round tip, dipping it in my water, and we're gonna begin to draw our darker sections. So our darker sections are gonna be closer to the lower part of our celery. Okay, so I'm coming in with that darker green right there. I'm gonna do the same thing over here. I'm adding most of the dark green towards the bottom. And then I'm just adding a little bit of that dark green lines towards the top. Okay, as long as you remember that the bottom is the darkest, then we'll be good. Okay, and we're gonna do the same thing on the other side. We're gonna try to stay around this lemon. Okay, and we're gonna draw our darker green towards the bottom. Okay, we do want to get our green all the way to the end. So if you want to come with a little bit more of your darkened green without any yellow, you can go in there to add that shadow in there if you really need to add that shadow. Okay, you see that? We're going to continue that on the bottom section as well. So I'm going to bring it down, and I'm going to add that dark green down there. As we work our way up, we're going to grab a little bit more of that lime light green that we made with the green with white. Okay, remember we had a little bit of green and white. We added in a little bit of yellow to brighten it up a little bit more. Okay. Awesome. I'm gonna add maybe a little bit more yellow. It might be a little bit too dull. Cool, there we go. So now I'm coming in with that lighter color, and I'm painting from the top down towards the bottom. Okay, same thing up here. We're gonna add a little bit of that yellow. Of that lime green over the top. Okay, here I'm already starting to divide it as well. Adding some of that lime green. And then right in the center, you're gonna come in with that white. You're gonna scrape in that white a little bit. That's gonna be the highlight right in the middle of your celery. Okay, so you're gonna put your white right along the middle. And you don't want to blend it too much. You do want it to stand out. Okay, we do want our white to make an impact when it's seen. Okay, coming in, back around. You're kind of gonna scrape that white on there. Okay, we want it to look a little messy. That way we can see the fibers. Okay, and we're doing that by just pressing very lightly, creating scratchy effects on our paint. Okay, and we're gonna do the same thing on the left. We're coming in with that white, adding those highlights right in the middle. Again, and I'm gonna pick up some of that lighter color and I'm gonna mess with it towards the left, towards the bottom, and I'm gonna mess with that darker color towards the top. Okay, so let me show you what I mean. So I'm actually gonna dry off my round tip and I can wash this one off as well. Okay, so just like when we're blending, we go back and forth in our colors. We're gonna do the same thing here. So we're grabbing that darker green yellow. Okay, and just so that it all looks even, we're adding the darker colors towards the bottom because that's where our shadow is at, correct? So our darker section is gonna be towards the bottom. Okay, but since we are working with something that has a lot of fiber, we're gonna come in and just lightly make a line with that darker green on top, just so that we can barely see that dark color. The lighter color is the color that stands out, but for some reason you can still see all of the fibers, and that is because we're dragging this little detail brush to create that effect. Okay, so again, I'm grabbing that darker color and I'm just adding a little bit of lines into my lime green. Hopefully it's still wet. That gives you a better effect. Then towards the bottom, I'm gonna add that darker green just to make sure that it does stand out enough. There we go. Starting to look a little bit more like celery. Awesome. So we're coming in. Got a little excited there. Yay. Makes me happy. So we're coming in. We're adding that that darker blue towards the top just to give it more texture. If you make it too dark, come back with your lighter green and just highlight it. Okay, and we're trying to get that fiber look. Okay, that's why we're creating all these little lines to give it a little bit of a fiber texture. I'm gonna go back in there with my white and I'm gonna straighten out the side of my bottle with the same brush. There we go. And you know what? This bottom of my celery doesn't look so straight. So I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna straighten that out. Let me give you guys some time to still play with that celery. Okay, give you a few minutes to do that. Okay, so moving on, we're gonna be grabbing our round tip brush still. And with that darker green that you're gonna have, we're gonna start to create some leaves on this side. So we're gonna bring our dark green and we're just gonna kind of press from the corner out towards the side. Okay, so again, we're grabbing that dark green color. Okay, and we're just kind of forming some loose leaves. Okay, and this is gonna be the top of our leaves on our celery. So we're coming in with some of that. We're coming in with a little bit of that light green color we made. And we're gonna fill in the center. We wanna get a variety of colors. We're gonna leave some gaps so that we can show our lighter green in between those gaps. We can cover it up with the lighter green, coming in, adding a little bit more. Maybe even adding a little bit more yellow if you want to add some yellow in there. So then at the end, we're gonna grab just some white and we're gonna go over it with some white as well so that we can see some white leafy sections as well. Okay, so come in, adding our white. And we're adding less white than we were adding all the other colors, okay? The white is the least showing or the least saturated amount. It looks like it's more only because it's brighter, but you want to add more of the other colors and just a little bit of that white to make it stand out. So moving on from this, we are now going to begin to paint our onion. We have a red onion on this side. Of course, our onion isn't red exactly. It's more like a purple color. So we're picking up our purple. Okay, into this purple, we're gonna add just a little bit of blue. You wanna make it a little bit darker. Okay, there we go. Okay, and I'm adding just a little bit more red. Okay, so a little bit more blue, and I'm adding a little bit more red. And that'll give me more of like a purple or a red onion color. See that? A little bit more blue and a little bit more red, and it gives us that red onion purple. So we're gonna come over here and we are gonna start on the left. We are just gonna be pointing this upwards. We're adding some more on the top. We're making like this little flower thing, okay? Again, these petals don't really have to make a lot of sense right now. We are gonna be adding some other colors, so that's fine. And we're gonna start and we're gonna make an arch around, okay? That's gonna be part of our onion. Our onion's also coming out on the side there. So we're gonna go towards the left, kind of like we're drawing a pumpkin, okay? You see how it has all those little sections? We're gonna do the same in the middle. We're coming in with a little bit more of that purple there. Coming back on the other side. And on the other side, and we have our onion over there. See that? Now we're starting to have our onion really stand out. Okay, so I add a little bit more red to my purple, just so that it would stand out more. Okay, so your lines that are towards the left are gonna be kind of curving towards the left. The lines that are towards the right are gonna be curving and arching towards the right. The next color we're gonna be using here is going to be our white. So we're coming in with our white and we're just adding a highlight over the top of our onion. You see that? We're going to also do it from the bottom up. And I'm not bringing it all the way to the end. I'm just scooping it. And this white is blending in with my red, and it's leaving this really pretty color here. Boom. So I'm not really trying to mix it. Okay. Right here, we're coming from the bottom up. Okay, we're not trying to blend the color in. We're trying to just scrape that white over that purple so that we get all that variety of color there. Okay, so right here in the bottom, it goes up as well. And it goes up and to the side so that it looks as if this is all part of the onion. See that? Okay, we're going to use this onion to create texture, to shape the bottom onion. We're not going to go all the way to the top of the peak. We're coming a little bit lower so that it looks like that in the back is our shadow. Maybe a little bit up on top and in the back here. We go, and now we have our onion. It's that simple. It looks way more complicated than it is. You can also pick up a little bit of blue and just scrape some blue over the top. That way it looks a little bit colorful. You just add a little bit of blue to that. You don't have to, but it does add an extra oomph of color in there. Okay, so next, I'm going to give you guys some time to do this. We're going to put a song just to make sure everybody's caught up. And then we're going to be moving on to our wood spoon and our mushroom. So moving on, we are using our detail brush, and we are now going to begin to outline our wooden spoon. So we're coming in with our detail brush, making sure we pick up some water, making sure you pick up some white. Remember, we want to make it nice and smooth. And we're going to come in and begin to outline our handle for it. So we are going to do it just a little bit angled. Okay, so you want to kind of bring your line across. Okay, so again, we did want to do it a little bit angled. Okay, so once we get towards the bottom here, again, we're going to angle it a little bit downwards just so that we can come in and do our spoon a little bit bigger here. So our spoon is going to go up slightly. It is going to touch the side of our celery. And it is going to go into our onion just a little bit. This is a nice big spoon. Okay, and we're going to come in and make it a little bit larger towards the bottom. Okay, so we're coming in with that white. Again, I am making it a little bit larger towards the bottom. Okay, and then right here at the end, our spoon is going to go up slightly and then just fade to the side of our canvas there. It's not going to be fully closed in. Okay, we're making it a little bit larger. We do want to make this nice and big, so you might have to go over it a little bit at a time just to make sure that you get the size that you're looking for. Okay, so right here in the center, we're going to draw sort of like an oval. Okay, so we're going to use this corner to draw an oval outwards. Right in the middle of our spoon here. So this is going to be our oval, nice and big. Okay, and this is going to be the thicker side. So we are going to come in and first we're going to paint the center. So we're going to be using our round tip brush for this, and we're going to be picking up our brown. So to our brown, we're going to be adding that brown into the corner of our yellow. Okay, again, we do want our brown to be a little lighter. So we are going to be adding some yellow. We're going to add a little bit of white, and we're making a light wood color. You see that? We just did a light brown. So brown with yellow and white. And we're going to come in and paint in the inside of this spoon. Luckily, we do have some white there, so it is going to blend nicely with it. Okay, come back. Pick up a little bit more. Remember to have your brush nice and moist when you come in and grab your color. Okay, there we go. And we're going to do the same around the spoon. So we're coming in with a little bit of a lighter brown. And then we're going to come in and create that outline around it. If you want to come in with maybe a little bit more white, you can use that white to just outline this top part of your spoon. And that way it looks a little bit lighter. And that's also going to highlight the rim section of your spoon as well. So you can come in with some white on the top also. See, so this is going to show you that it's a little bit more highlighted, that maybe it's sticking out slightly more. And that's why we're getting this highlighted color there. And that's the reason why we're doing it in the bottom as well. We're coming with a little bit of that white. This one, we don't want it to stand out as much, but we do want that highlight from it. Okay, so see, it's not as bright as that, but it's still a lot brighter. Okay, and we're going to continue with this brown towards the back of our spoon as well. We're going to go in there with our darker brown right now. I know you might think, oh my gosh, but that doesn't look like a spoon. It doesn't have any shadows. It's just a plain color. Well, we're going to come back and add some darker brown to it just to add some shadows on top of that highlight that we already made, and that's going to bump your spoon to a whole other level. Okay, so we're going to grab a little bit of that white again, and we're just going to scoop it on the top section of this spoon. There we go. Then you have that middle section of yellow that you already have there. We're not going to really touch that. All we're going to be using now is going to be our darker brown. Okay, so I'm coming back, adding a little bit more of that highlight there, adding a little bit more of a highlight here. Again, I don't want it to be too bright. Awesome. All right. So next, make sure that this is nice and laid out. Cool. Okay. So next we're going to be grabbing that dark brown directly. Okay, nice and chocolatey. We're adding a little bit of water to that, making it nice and soft so that we don't run out of that paint. Okay. And we're going to just apply that brown inside. So we're starting first with the inside. I'm beginning to shape the shadowy part of my ladle or my wood spoon. Okay, and then I'm going to add a little bit underneath that highlight. Okay, come back with that brown. And in the bottom of our spoon, I'm going to use that brown for a shadow. Just like we did our celery, we added darker green towards the bottom. Here we're going to be adding a darker brown. Go back and add a little bit more white there. So again, we're coming in with that darker brown and we're creating that shadow below. We're adding just a little bit towards that top, just to add some texture. And then at the end of this painting, we're adding just a little bit on top, a little thin line. And then we're gonna add that darker brown towards the bottom of our spoon. So now we have 1, 2, 3 types of brown. Finally, we're gonna pick up a little bit of black and mix it into our brown for an even darker shade. Okay. And that's gonna be our darkest shadow towards the bottom. Okay, same thing here. Press and release. You have a darker shadow. And release over here as well. And release. Right here towards the bottom also. Press and release. And there we go. We have our wooden spoon right there. Okay, I came in, I'm adding some more of that white over the top. Okay, I'm adding some more white right here in the bottom, just to go with that highlight. I'm bringing out this white slightly more. Okay, and we're creating that highlight on that spoon. Awesome. All right. So then finally, before we work on our Tabasco jar, we're going to be working on our little mushroom. So you're going to pick up a little bit of this brown that you added the black to. Okay, we're getting that brown and that black, and we're going to pick up a little bit of white, and we're going to turn that into a dark brown gray color. Okay, so I'm picking up my white, I'm picking up my black, and I'm picking up my brown to get a mushroom dark tan color there. Okay, I'm coming back with a little bit more black. We want it to be nice and dark. Okay, a little bit more brown. There we go. We got like a dark mushroom color here. Perfect. Okay, so the way we're going to do this is we are going to create an arch and then close it in, okay? So an arch and then close it in the bottom. Also like an arch. So it's going to be larger on top, smaller beneath. Okay. So in this section, we're going to grab just a little bit of black and we're going to add that black in an almond shape towards the bottom of our mushroom. And we're going to start to create that shadow there. See that? So little by little, I'm adding some black and I'm making a shadow. Okay. Again, a little black at a time. Next, we're going to grab a little bit more of that black and brown, and we're going to create a little stem coming out. Okay. So again, we're going to make it a little bit rounder towards the bottom. You can pick up just a little bit of white to create a highlight there. So it looks like the light is hitting it. We're adding a little bit of white in the corner. And before this dries, we're going to come in with a little bit more white here. And we're also going to add white to the top of our mushroom. Okay, just to give it a highlight on it. See how it's starting to look a little bit more three-dimensional with that white added? We're going to do the same thing down here that we did here, except that it's in a smaller scale. We're adding our white, holding it up, we're closing in our mushroom. And then towards the bottom, just like we did here, we're going to add a little bit of more black to that to create that shadow that we're looking for. Okay, I'm going to add a little bit more black on this side too. Okay, I'm also going to add a little bit of black towards the middle. There we go. And we have our funky little mushroom there. To add a variety in color, I'm picking up some green with the same brush, and I'm picking up some yellow, and I'm just going to add a little swoop of color below here. Okay, we can add a little bit of that green over here as well. It's just some random highlights with that green. I'm also going to grab a little bit of white, and I'm going to do some highlights with my white as well. There's a little bit of a highlight there, another one over here. And I'm just adding some color to the background. That way it looks a little bit more alive. Again, it's really up to you. If you don't really want to add that, you don't have to. I'm just trying to make it colorful so that the ground doesn't look so empty. Okay. Cool. So I'm going to give you guys a little bit of time. Make sure you come back with a little bit more of that bold white. And we're just going to add a little bit of a highlight on top. We're going to add a little bit of a highlight on that corner. And we're going to add a little bit of a highlight right on that rim. Right there. And that's going to be an extra little oomph to our painting. It's going to really bring it out. It's going to look like the light is really, really hitting our piece there. Finally, we are going to be working on our Tabasco jar. So we're going to start off first with our square brush. We're going to be picking up our red. Okay, I personally like to add just a little drop of black into my red just to make it a tad bit darker. Okay, and we start to get that red right there. So you get Tabasco red. Just because I added just a drop of black, it's not as bright as the other one. Okay, so I added just a little drop of that black. Okay, and we are gonna do a triangle right in the middle and a triangle upside down. So it's gonna be a total of a little diamond. And we are gonna go in and try to keep it right in the middle here. Okay, so we're gonna come in. We're gonna do the other little corner. Okay, and we're gonna do the same thing in the bottom. We're gonna come in. Okay, and we're gonna try to paint around this, and we're gonna paint this lid up here. So I'm coming in with that red. I'm picking up my lid. I'm painting it red with it. I'm also gonna paint red over the top, except that the top is gonna have a little bit more of a shadow. So I'm adding just a little bit more black to my red. So now I have two types of red. You see that? I have my light red and my dark red. So I'm using my dark red just a little bit slightly towards the side and the bottom. And I'm gonna be filling in the top. And you see how just a little change in color can give you that depth you're looking for? See, and now it looks like it's got a shadow over the top of it. Okay, I'm gonna come in with just a little bit more white on the top of that lid, and I'm creating a little bit of a highlight. So then after that, we're gonna come in and we're just gonna try to paint around our Tabasco, and we're gonna try to keep it as clean as we can have it. Okay, so while this is drying, we are gonna go back and we are gonna use our square brush again, and we are gonna be picking up some white. Okay, so we are picking up our square brush, adding some water to it. Okay, we're gonna add some more water, picking up that brush, and we're gonna start to make this a little sharper. Okay, so we're gonna come in and we're gonna straighten out that diamond shape in the middle. Next, we are gonna come in and we are painting a white section below the lid. Cool, there we go. And then below that, we're gonna be picking up our green, and we're gonna start to fill this in with our green. We're starting off first with just a little bit of blue on the right. I'm gonna use it to just outline the bottom. Okay, so we're coming in with a little bit of blue. And then we're gonna be picking up our green. The blue is gonna be an additive that allows us to make our green a little bit darker. Okay, so we're gonna come in with that green. See, we're mixing it into our blue there. And we're just gonna start painting that in. Again, if you want shadow at any point, you can pick up your blue, and your blue allows for there to be some shadow on there. Awesome. So right in the middle of that, we are going to come back with just a little bit of white, and we are going to be scraping that towards the center just to add for some highlight there as well. Okay, so we want it a little bit darker on the edges, and we want it brighter towards the middle. If you want to go in there with your detail brush, so we're going to wait for that blue to dry up. We can go in and apply some more details and do some straightening up. With our little detail brush, I'm going to come in and just straighten up some things. I'm making this a little bit larger again. I went into it too much. Towards the top, I'm going to add a little bit more of that shadow, so I'm adding a little bit of the black to remember to keep that a little bit darker on the top so that it keeps the shape that it's supposed to have. And I'm going to do the same thing below. I'm going to add a little bit of that darker red to give it a nice shape underneath and to give it a shadowy look also. Okay, so next we're going to be grabbing just a little bit of blue. And as a little detail and highlight, we're going to just add that blue over the top of the rim there. Okay, so I added a little bit of blue there. Next, I'm going to add a little bit of blue underneath my jar. Our reflections are going to be done in blue and white. Grabbing a little bit more blue on that side. Coming in, putting in some blue towards the bottom. Okay, and then I'm going to be doing that line below. And we're doing that all the way around, just prepping it for these shadows. Okay, so the next we're coming back with a little bit of some white into our yellow, some red, and yellow. So it's going to be red, yellow, and white. We're creating like an orangey color. Okay, make sure that we add plenty of white to that orange. That's what's going to make it a little more subtle. So I came up with this kind of a tannish color right there. You see that? It's kind of like an off pink, kind of like an orangey tan. Okay, if you want to add some brown in there to make it just a little darker, you can add some brown and that'll take it down a notch if you think it's a little too bright. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're going to create some highlights with that color as well. So we're going in there, creating a highlight with that. Next, you're going to grab a little drop of black and mix it into your white so we can make a light gray. And that light gray shadow is going to be going over our white. There we go. So we did a little shadow there in gray. And then below on our green, we have to remember to do those white highlights. At this point, your white probably faded all the way to the background. So we are going to get a little bit more of that white. And we're going to do a couple of lines here. Just to create some of that highlight. And then we're going to grab a nice thick amount of that and create that highlight below it. All right, before we go in and finish the highlights on our glass here, we're going to be grabbing just a little bit of blue, a little drop of blue. We're going to move it onto the side. Okay, into this blue, we're going to add a lot of water to it. Okay, look how it's almost see-through. Okay, it's like see-through. You can't even see it. It's just a drop of blue with a lot of water. And we just turn that into a glaze. So this is what we're going to do with that. We're going to add a very subtle shadow on the right-hand side of our white little tag here for the Tabasco. Okay, and we're just playing with these colors. And if you notice, it's just a tight little shadow. You can't really tell much. It's not super dark. It's just creating a little bit of that shadow there, and that's what we're wanting to get. Okay, we don't want it too dark. We want it nice and light so that it can fade to the background and you can barely even tell that there's a shadow there to begin with. Okay, you can also do that with your purple. I'm going to grab a little drop of purple, put it on the side, a little drop, and then I'm going to add a little bit more maybe. There we go. And then I'm going to add a lot of water to that. Make it a light glaze in purple. And I'm going to add just a little bit of that purple on the top. Okay, I'm going to add a little bit on the sides there. Okay, I'm also going to add some towards the bottom. And I'm going to begin to define the design of my logo here. I'm also going to add maybe a little bit more purple to the inside there, just to make it look like there's more shadows. So now what we have to do is, while we wait for this, continue to add our shadows around the glass. So we're using a round tip brush, picking up some white, and we are going to press and then drag down and release. Okay, we want it to be thinner on the sides. Okay, we're going to do the same right on the left. We're going to press, drag that glass down. We still have some of this tan color. Let me see, there we go. So we come back with a little bit more of that white. Right in the middle, we drag it up. We're also going to put a nice thick amount towards the bottom here. And there we go. We added some of that around. I'm also going to add a little bit of cross lines to imply some highlight on that section. So next, we're going to wait for this to dry, and then we're going to be moving on with our details of our writing. Okay, so I'm going to give it about a minute, and we're going to let this dry. I'm going to put you guys on mute, and then we'll be moving on. So grabbing our detail brush, mix a little bit of red and purple, or red and blue, with a drop of black to make it a hint darker. We're going to come in and we're going to make an outline all the way across here. So we're going to do an outline, creating a border around our logo. Okay, so we're creating our border line there. Okay, so after we do that line all around, we are gonna come back and we are gonna wash that brush. We're gonna grab a little bit of our green now. Okay, make sure that you add plenty of water to that green. Okay, if your green is a little too bright and you wanna darken it up a bit, you can add just a little hint of black and that'll take it down a notch so that it's a little bit darker. So I'm adding some more water to that green. Okay, and I'm gonna write in and we're gonna write Tabasco completely across. Okay, Tabasco with an A right in the middle. A. You don't have to write these exact letters either. Let's say you want another type of sauce or you want to put ketchup on there. You can totally put ketchup. It doesn't have to be exactly the same. T-A-B, an A right in the middle. Remember that. An S. Then we have our S. Then we have our C. Okay. And then we have our O. Tabasco. Okay. So right as we finish that, we come in. My S is a little weird and so is my C. I can fix those later. That's fine. So we're gonna come in with our red. We're gonna do one solid line below it. And then we're gonna come in with that red. And we're gonna do two arches. So we're gonna start in the middle and it's gonna be kind of like a circle, okay? So we're doing a circle on this side and we're continuing it over the top. And then we're doing a larger one that we're also continuing over the top. And there you go, Tabasco. Okay, I love it. Finally, the only thing that you have left to do is gonna be coming in with your detail brush and you're gonna come in and put your name on the right hand side. You have the option of doing some outlines. I don't know if you might want to. I'm gonna go in and just add some outlines on my spoon just to make it stand out a little bit more. It's perfectly fine this way as well. If you don't want to go in and add any black lines, you don't have to. It depends on how comfortable you feel with your brush doing that. So I'm gonna come in with my detail brush and I'm just gonna create a little bit of an outline around the spoon. I'm gonna do the same thing on the right. Just adding a thin line. I'm not trying to be super thick here. So I'm adding a thin line around. And I'm gonna come in and just work on this arch also. So I come in, added a little bit of that outline. You can also add some outlines to the sides of your Tabasco. Again, that is completely up to you. I'm gonna also add maybe a line around my lemon. My lines are not fully gonna close in. They're gonna be a little bit looser. Added some lines inside as well. There you go. That way it stands out a little bit more. I'm going to do the same thing on my lid. I'm making my lid stand out by adding a little bit more of a shadow. Okay, also coming in. And I'm just going to outline the side of my Tabasco. And there we go. If you want to outline your mushroom, that's also a possibility. We don't want to outline the onion so much, only because it already really has pretty decent lines on there and decent colors. So we don't want to go all extreme by adding a lot of shadows to that. So I'm only going to add a shadow to the bottom. Okay. I'm going to add a little bit of shadow to the back end of this. Okay. And then I'm going to come in and just do some scattered lines. Okay, do a line there, maybe another line in there, a line down here, and that's it. And you guys are done. Voila, great job, guys. Amazing job. Thank you so much for joining me. Make sure to check out our videos on our website at www.unwindanddesign.org.